But let's go to Hawaii because I want your insight on this if we can. This is a brief clip of an interview with Pua Case on Democracy Now! On this telescope in Mauna Kea. Let's play this clip.
I'm reporting from a hunter's check-in station at a place called Pu'uhuluhulu, which is right across the street of the access road leading up to Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is a sacred mountain for us here in Hawaii. Mauna Kea is genealogically linked to the native people of these lands. Mauna Kea is known as our kupuna, our ancestor, our teacher, our protector, our corrector, and our guide. And so for the last 10 years, we have held off the project of the building of an 18-story telescope on the top of our mountain near the summit on a pristine area called the Northern Plateau over our water aquifer and the source of water for much of this island. Those who are partnering in this project are Canada, China, India, Japan, and the United States in the area of California, with the largest single donor being the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation in Palo Alto. So why we are standing for this mountain is quite simple, Amy, and thank you for having me on the show. If I could put it very simply, I would say, if we don't stand for the most sacred, what will we stand for? And if not now, when will we stand? So we are making a stand as not just Native people and not just the local community, but really a worldwide community. Because there are so many similarities. There are Native people everywhere around the world standing for their mountaintops, for their waters, for their land bases, their oceans, and their lifeways. We are no different than them. But because Mauna Kea is the highest mountain in the world from the seafloor, and spiritually speaking, there are reasons that Mauna Kea is connected to many different mountains around the world. And the integrity and the essence of water in our spirituality is why we must not allow 18 stories to be built on the northern plateau of our mountain. It is the one too many and the one too big.
So I will just say we're working to get her on this show. We'll see if we do. But can we connect this to the themes we've been talking about in terms of organizing, activism, climate, First Nations people?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say how excited I am that y'all might bring Pua Case on the show. I'm not directly involved in this campaign, and definitely believe that folks engaged should be speaking directly to it. But what I can talk about is why I feel so compelled by it as a non-Native person, as someone on the mainland, and why I think actually everyone should listen, should donate to the Kahia Fund and the Hawaii Community Bail Fund, which is that this is an indigenous sovereignty struggle, full stop. And there are other aspects of it. There's an environmental aspect. But fundamentally, what is going on in Hawaii is part of a tradition of resistance against colonialism. And a lot of us in this country are trained to think that colonialism is somehow over, or that the U.S. hasn't participated in it. And one of the things that I've learned as a solidarity activist, maybe even actually like the core learning for me from supporting some of these land-based fights, is that colonialism is a trajectory that this civilization has been on for the last 500 years that is fundamentally, I mean, first of all, it's just like deeply soul-killing. But it's also fundamentally out of alignment with the viability of the future of human life on this planet. That the logic of colonialism is the hegemonic order of it is to say that there's only one right way to live, and we're going to stamp out every other way of living. And indigenous movements are rooted in ecological interdependence, the truth that diversity is the way to thrive through crisis. And for people who are, a lot of non-native people are in existential dread right now about the climate crisis in a way that is much more, what's the word? Like, I don't know, less grounded than the native people that I know, who are like, we have gone through crisis and change for so long that our peoples who are connected to the lands know how to navigate this. And I just feel so compelled that the people on this planet who have been so deeply fundamentally trampled by this world order are offering insights and pathways forward for the rest of us. And one of the ways that they're doing it is defending their territory and land. And this encampment on Mauna Kea, it's 2 weeks in. Last week, they arrested 33 elders. And they are at the point where they are saying enough. They've been defending the mountaintop for 10 years. And native sovereignty is important in its own right. I think it's important for the soul of humanity, beyond any kind of human rights framework. But also, even if you don't care about that, even if you only care, if you are worried about climate change, know this: native people are 5% of the Earth's population, and they protect 80% of the world's biodiversity. Right. And that the fundamental strategy to protecting intact forests and ecosystems is indigenous sovereignty, that when native people have control over their lands, all of the track record shows is they protect it and defend it. And that, like, if you drew a map, I think we talked about this on one of the kind of Patreon only shows. If you drew a map of the Amazon based on, that was a map of deforestation in the Amazon. And if you drew a red line around the territories that indigenous people have been able to assert their right to their livelihood and their sovereignty, and then showed the encroachment of deforestation, it would match that line exactly. No other strategy works, full stop. And I know you've shouted out the Waorani victory that happened recently on this show, and it's the same thing where the Waorani tribe in Ecuador recently just won the appeal in their lawsuit that just protected 500,000 acres of their rainforest. In that protection, the way they won that was not through environmental campaigning. It was through asserting their rights to free, prior, and informed consent, which were not met by the Ecuadorian government, which is both in international law and in the Ecuadorian constitution. So indigenous rights, what I'm saying, is a strategy for that kind of conservation. And that when native people organize, what I've learned from them is the root in solidarity, like the Waorani victory, is fundamentally positioning a legal precedent to now they're pushing to protect another 7 million acres on territories that are not their territories, they're other indigenous territories, in a context of holding a deep vision of asserting the rights of Mother Nature. So there's a futuristic vision that is based in ancestral tradition, but not looking to the past. It is fundamentally understanding the role of technology. It is understanding the role of the transition that our species is in, and that it is interconnected. And it's the same thing of what's going on in Mauna Kea, when the encampment that's happening is absolutely connected to the tradition that came out of Standing Rock. And I think those of us who are not native have so much to learn. And at this point, like, if you're listening, I just want to implore you, like, donate to the bail fund, hawaiicommunitybailfund.org or kahea.org. The call out right now is not for non-native people to, like, get involved. You don't fly to Hawaii.
Don't.
But support people who are rooted in place. And I guess the last thing that I'll say about that fight that strikes me as a lover of science, there's actually two things I want to say. One is that don't buy the false dichotomy. Like, yeah, they're trying to build a gigantic telescope. I think telescopes are dope. I love outer space. I like looking at nebulas. I'm fascinated. But native peoples, like the irony of destroying a sacred site that is part of a cosmology of understanding humanity's place in the world and a deep wisdom that is a non-Western wisdom, destroying and trampling that for the sake of trying to learn about our place in the world is ridiculous.
Right.
And there is all around the world, native struggles have taught me that there's a lot more going on around us than what our five senses can perceive. None of it is anti-science. It is all, and the perspective of the native people that I know is that science is like the floor, and a lot of their traditions are much looking towards the ceiling of understanding the complexity of the human experience, and that is something that Mauna Kea is a root for these people, and that at the end of the day, it just shouldn't even be a question. If local native people are saying this is the most sacred site to us, no,
Right.
then you need to respect that. And when
Right.
you think of like the outpouring of like money for like the church burning in Notre Dame, or just like the way
Which is
that,
also
like,
cool. I hate those
Yeah.
juxtapositions.
No, I'm
Notre
not
Dame is beautiful.
Of
Let's protect
course.
it. But yeah, let's also not destroy
course.
native people's land, religion, which we've been doing for centuries and centuries and centuries, and every single day across the globe.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not juxtaposing those to say like, oh, we shouldn't care about the other one,
Right.
but rather to say if that this is just as important, and if you feel moved by that, then allow yourself to be moved by this, and I guess that the thing that the final thing I'll just say about it, for I think anyone listening, you should follow Pua Case, just at Pua Case. There are some hashtags that are worth following that are We Are Mauna Kea. And I think one of the things that I've learned as a non-native person from following native struggles and learning to support them is that they fundamentally taught me humility. And the way that this work is being done is fundamentally like through a collective mindset that rejects individualism, that is rooted in deep history of understanding trajectories from thousands of years in a bigger cosmology, with your eyes on the prize of a larger North Star that sees all people as your family and as your relatives, that's rooted in cycles, and that is humble as fuck. And that is something that the rest of the American left can learn a lot from.
Oh, it's beautiful. I will never do this, but I'm not going to actually do that because it's fucking repulsive, but I wish I could.
You almost did it. That was close.
You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.